Stand Up Upstate. I'm Abby Rose.
I'm Anna, and Abby did our interview for us this week.
That's right. My first interview was Stand Up Upstate. I interviewed Kit Hawkins from Career Wellness Center in Greenville. They were an absolute patient guest, answered every question very kindly. Without further ado, please roll that tape. Hello, my name is Abby Rose. Pleasure to meet you. I work with Stand Up Upstate. I'm a volunteer host there.
My name's Kit Hawkins. I work as a peer support specialist for the Queer Wellness Center, a certified peer support specialist through the state of South Carolina to provide services.
Amazing. How long have you been working with Queer Wellness?
Just past my 4th year there.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So I was going to ask you a few questions that we have. Do you know the current laws in SC that pertain to gender-affirming care for minors?
So I'm not an expert on law, but I do know that there are several laws pertaining to gender-affirming care. So there is a law that prevents any kind of medical intervention for minors under the age of 18 in South Carolina. So doctors here are not able to prescribe medications for gender-affirming hormone therapy. Cisgender kids can still access that care, though, interestingly.
That is interesting.
For things like precarious puberty or to prevent things like gynecomastia in boys that may develop that, like cisgender
What is
boys.
gynecomastia? I'm sorry.
It's extra tissue on the chest. There are scientific studies that have been done to show that this care is life-saving. So those that, on the whole, on the majority, there's always going to be a regret rate for any kind of medical intervention. But on the whole, people who undergo this care see a improvement in their quality of life. And I would assume that is the goal of any kind of medical intervention, is to improve the quality of the life of the person receiving it. They scanned the brains of cisgender people and transgender people and compared the way that they reacted to stimuli. And they found that the brains of transgender people more closely aligned to their cisgender counterparts. So, for instance, a trans woman's brain would light up more similarly to a cisgender woman's brain than a cisgender man's brain.
That's very interesting. Very fascinating.
There are other theories that has to do with development in utero and different levels of hormones at different times in utero and also during birth. There's so many different factors, and we develop different parts of our bodies in utero at different times. So the theory is that your reproductive system, for example, could develop one way while your neurological system develops a different way.
Wow. You know, those individuals need this affirming care to feel themselves, to feel as whole with themselves.
And by denying them this care, many doctors feel that essentially forcing these kids, when they have another option, to go through a puberty that does not feel right to them is doing harm. And so preventing access to this care is doing harm. It would be, it would see it as similar to preventing someone from accessing like preventative care to any kind of thing, right? Like, so by not giving someone medicine for influenza or the cold, you are prolonging their suffering and therefore doing harm.
And causing more harm because it's not being treated.
Most gender-affirming care is social in nature. It's
Interesting.
Calling the kid by the name they want to be called, for example. I'm not sure of the statistic, but I think it's around 60%. It reduces like the likelihood of suicidal ideation to have one supportive adult in a kid's life. So it's really like that social aspect is I would almost say more, if not just as important as the medical intervention, more important than the medical intervention.
Okay, good to know. See, I didn't realize it was also like social too. Like, so there's medical and then there's social, and they both play a role, both play a part in
and a large
helping.
part of the gender-affirming medical care that minors access right now is not hormone therapy. We're not like giving kids hormones. We're not giving kids surgery. We're like holding off on their natal puberty so that they can decide for themselves later what's right for them.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And until recently, they could access HRT at the age of 16, which is the age of consent in South Carolina. And so a bill was recently passed that barred doctors from legally being able to prescribe that medication any longer. And now they have to wait until they're 18 in the state of South Carolina.
Wow. Do you see a change within your own establishment within queer wellness, how that law has taken effect?
So prior to that law happening, I actually didn't work with a lot of kids. And since that law came into play, I'm still not working with a lot of kids, but I am working with a lot of parents of kids who are reaching out concerned about their kid that just came out and wants all this care, and they're really worried about their kid, essentially. A lot of these parents are worried that their kid's going to become another suicide statistic. A lot of these parents are worried that their kid is going to get bullied in school. Like, it's kind of heartbreaking to see it take the uprise in parents needing support. And I'll occasionally get to talk to one of these kids, and I think it's kind of cool for them to see someone else who is trans, who is just living their life, getting to help other people, and to know they're not alone. I think that's another the parents too, and another reason why they reach out. Gender-affirming care doesn't prevent all of what that parent's worried about, right? So that's the social piece, is like that social support and the culture around how we talk about trans people is important, because that's affecting the kids that are growing up today.
Yes.
So another law that affects both minors and adults was the one that passed that included budget cuts to Medicaid, I believe, where Medicaid and Medicare, any state funded. So that also includes PIBA. There's another one that I can't remember, but essentially if you work for the state, you have this kind of insurance. So not only if you're, we say Medicaid is for the poor people and Medicare is for the old people, right? So whether you're old, poor, or work for the state. So you could have a great job. You could be a police officer. In fact, I know a transgender police officer on the force. You could work for the police and have police provided insurance, and that insurance could still not cover your gender-affirming care because of this law that passed.
Wow.
And so that kind of applies to, or it does, and it does apply to all state employees. And I personally think that's discriminatory. Like, why are we choosing not to cover people based on who they are?
So I wanted to dive into the services that Queer Wellness provides.
We have a program called Bloom. It's essentially group therapy for teens, for any LGBTQ teens. They don't have to be trans. I will say the large majority of the teens that access this service are trans. but you don't have
That's
to.
interesting. Mm.
I think that's probably just a factor of them being one of the more marginalized groups and one of the groups that need more support because of the lack of cultural support.
I wish I had something like that growing up as a
It's
queer
really cool to see these
person.
kids like just getting to meet each other, talk together, have some social time in a place where they know they're not going to get bullied for who they are.
Yes. Yes, there's like no judgment
Yeah.
for that. That's amazing. What other services do Queer Wellness provide?
So I run the other kind of half of the program that we've currently got going. We're in a transition period, moving buildings. So we've kind of we've stopped a lot of our programming, but the other half of what we do have going on is the LEAP program that I personally run. And that entails a number of services, namely one-on-ones, support group once a week, and then name and gender marker change help.
What is that?
So what I do is I print out the paperwork that's needed for those legal documents. So I'm able to like go through all of the paperwork that the state requires that you have processed before you go through a legal name and gender marker change. And I kind of walk them through the process. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer and I can't give legal advice, but I can kind of walk them through what that process looks like. And I'm also a notary, so I can notarize some of the documents that they need.
Nifty. That's cool. So you do one-on-one peer support, and then you also you print out the necessary legal documents, and you just help them understand what is required of them, and then you notarize them because you are a notary.
Yep.
That's cool. That's really cool.
We also run once a week support group for the local trans community. It's just for trans people over the age of 18. And that we've seen that program it's busting down our walls. I'll say that. It's grown from like an average of, I think we were averaging 6 to 8 people a week when I took it over, and now we're averaging 32 to 36 every week.
Yes. Oh wow.
So that's probably the biggest program, the most utilized program. The one-on-ones are great for the people that need the extra hour of peer support a week, but for a lot of people, that's what they need. Is that like that social support and that community to come together and be like, hey, you're not alone.
You're not alone.
Yes. Yeah. Like we get what you're going through. Like it's I think the most like heartwarming thing for me personally is seeing new people come in, and I don't think the group knows this, but I say everybody gets one where it's your first time and you want to come in and you want to tell everybody why you're there and how you got to where you are. And so
the origins.
Yeah, basically. But seeing when people come in and do that, seeing the rest of the group go, I've been there. I've been where you are, and I wanna reach out and support you in that. It's made my job so easy.
I think we touched on this, but what services do you see being used the most?
Definitely the support groups. And also just email for information. Like I have people all the time just reaching out and asking for resources. Asking, hey, do you know of someone who is LGBT friendly who works as a lawyer, or who does hair, or who does nails? Like, do you know a safe place for me to go where I'm not going to be harassed asking for services?
A network, pretty much.
Yeah.
Professionals. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
So beyond the support groups, that's probably the second most utilized thing, is just asking us where can I go?
Yes, you're like a well of knowledge.
We try to keep a I don't know if it's been updated in a while, but we used to keep an affirming provider list. So
Mm-hmm.
anyone in the area who was LGBTQ friendly could reach out and say, "Hey, I want to be added to that," and we would
Oh,
add them as a
wow.
resource.
That is amazing. Is there anything, I know we talked about legislation a little bit, and I know that you're not a lawyer, but is there anything that you've heard in the wind from our lawmakers, from our government officials that concern you in the future?
I think that they are satisfied with the amount they've beaten us down at this point. That may change in the future. The most recent piece of legislation that we haven't discussed that I am upset about it was the legislation regarding public colleges and bathroom spaces, um,
Mm,
where they essentially told public colleges and universities, "Hey, if you get public funding, you don't have to provide transgender students with restrooms other than porta potties. Like the bare minimum, the minimum you need to provide them is porta potties."
wow, that feels so, I don't know, degrading, you know,
It
in a
yeah,
way.
it reminds me of some past era segregation things that I won't go into. Um, I will say that most colleges and universities are not doing that to their students. They're doing right by their students. And
Mm-hmm.
I recently visited my alma mater of, I can't say that word, alma mater of USC Upstate,
Neither can I.
and
Yeah.
was very proud to see that they had gender neutral restrooms that had locks on them.
Yes. Oh,
And so
wow. Yeah.
and they were multi-stall, but you could lock them behind you if you felt unsafe going there. Um,
Yeah. Well,
so
that's
it was
awesome. Is there anything that queer wellness is facing that the community can help on too?
the unfortunate reality of running a nonprofit is always going to be funding.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we run mostly off of donations from the local community. Um, there are grant opportunities, and we have a grant writing team, and we do go after grants that are available to our center. But with I think a lot of organizations right now are seeing funding cuts. Um, I know the federal cut. There were federal cuts to LGBTQ nonprofits. It always feels like a nonprofit is kind of floating year to year, right? Like you're running on steam and hopes and dreams as a nonprofit. So
Yep. Yep. We know that all too well here at Stand Up Upstate.
yeah,
Yes, hopes and dreams and sweat, you know.
yeah, we're committed to the community, and we're committed to continue doing the work for absolutely as long as we can. And I see that commitment from not just my coworkers, but the board, in that they are continuing services even in like this difficult time of transitioning between buildings. Like I think we moved out of the building at the end of May. So
Mm-hmm.
coming up on about 2 months, and our services are still going strong. Like we're still seeing people one on one. We're still holding all of the support groups. We've still got name change stuff available. Like we're still doing the work. And if we can do the work without a building, I can't wait to see what we can do when we get our building back.
Yes, me too. I would love to see y'all grow and get stronger. Let's do like a thought experiment. Like, what if pretend I'm coming out as trans, right? What is the first steps that I would take um alongside with you at Queer Wellness? Like, what does that look like as a newly out trans person?
Young adults start their journeys with me at 18, and I've had 18-year-olds the first interaction I've had with an 18-year-old has been, I just ran away from home because my parents freaked out when I said I was trans. What do I do?
Oh, oh.
So I
And
have
what would
had,
be your answer?
I connect them with a local housing service that houses
Mm-hmm.
young trans people who have essentially don't have anywhere else to go. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
that housing service only goes up to the age of 26, but
yeah.
it is a young adult who is, between the ages of 18 and, or not even 18, they could be younger than that, 0 and 26. And they've been told, get out of my house, you queer person. They can go to this place and find a place to live.
Yeah.
And they have a variety of different options depending on what your age is and what your needs are, including like rapid rehousing services where they help pay for your rent for up to a month. Like, or not a
Oh,
month, a year.
wow.
I'm sorry, a year, up to a year.
Okay.
We like help you get back on your
Yeah.
feet, essentially. Um,
That's
but
awesome.
that's another nonprofit in the area. But resources exist, and part of my job is helping connect these young adults to those resources, and not just young adults, old adults. And I'm not talking old adults like 30s. I'm talking old adults like I'm in my 60s and I'm just now realizing I'm trans.
Wow. Yeah, right? I feel like in this world, in this society, a lot of like older queer people who never admitted to themselves that they are queer, they struggle with fighting themselves. And I think some people, it takes them until that long, um, because of like society pressure telling them that it's wrong or they're sick, and it's not true. It's just what we've been told. So I don't know. I think there's something to that. I feel like, you know, blooming into yourself can happen at any age, you
Yes,
know?
yeah, I completely agree. And a lot of the fear that I hear behind older trans adults is I'm scared I'm going to be the oldest one there.
Oh, yeah.
And we
Oh,
have people in our group who are in their 50s, 60s. I think we've even had someone in their 70s before. And
wow.
so
Yeah.
just because you're older doesn't mean it's too late to be yourself.
It was a great time. I learned a lot, and I'm very proud of you guys.
Thank you so much, Kit, for taking the time to talk to us. I know Abby appreciates how patient you were with her. It looked like from watching the interview that you really learned a few things. What
Did.
really struck you from talking to Kit?
Well, I feel like the biggest moment that like hit me was when they were talking about the medical versus social aspect in the beginning, because I didn't realize how important that is for someone who is coming out as trans. How there needs to be a circle of acceptance for them to feel validated in their identity.
In a lot of ways, not necessarily trans, gender-affirming care saves lives. And one of the things Kit was saying is that the social is just as, if not sometimes more important than the medical aspects of it. And that just one accepting person can change the whole thing for one trans person.
Right.
One accepting person.
Right. Like at one point we were talking about who comes to the wellness center, and they were saying how the organization wants to catch everyone who is coming out as trans or is queer and needs support, not just those who have supportive parents, but those who do not have supportive parents, because there is a lot of people who do not have those support groups.
Right. And so the support groups that the Queer Wellness Center provides it gives them community, and it gives them acceptance and lets them know that they're they're not by themselves. Kit mentioned a really interesting study that they had done, and I think they did it in London, where they scanned brains of cis people and then of trans people that were of the same gender. So trans women and cis women, and found their brains to be roughly the same. The science aspect of it is incredibly fascinating. One of the other things is, so when specifically bringing it back around to South Carolina, House Bill 46.24, right, states that, do you remember?
So,
because I don't have it written down, and I think it's in your brain.
The synopsis is it's practically a ban on public funding for those who are insured with Medicare and Medicaid, and it prevents specifically trans people from getting gender-affirming care that they need.
I think they're not covering for trans people, period, but they banned it altogether if they're under 18.
It just seems to prevent trans people from getting the help that they need to feel more validated in society, whether that be social or even medical, mental
or physical.
Mental
Yeah.
or physical.
Be it, hormonal or, therapy, not to fix them, but to help them in their journeys and to help them with a lack of acceptance. Something I read on GLAAD's website, I'm sure I'm presenting this wrong, but GLAAD had a number on their website that 75% of Americans support LGBTQ protection policies. 75% is a full-on majority. And it's one of those things that sort of makes you wonder, like, what is happening? What are the politicians doing?
Yes.
Why? You know what I mean? Like, they're not, it's one of those places where the people are apparently not being represented. Something else I found that was really interesting that Kit said is that the gender-affirming care that the insurance is not covering, and that the children are not being, that people under 18, not saying children, no one's taking your first grader and putting them on estrogen without your consent. With people under 18 and that the insurance is not covering is gender-affirming care for transgender people. Gender-affirming care is for everyone. There are plenty of cisgendered people that receive gender-affirming care. And in those situations, even for people under 18. If a cis person needs gender-affirming care, they are allowed to receive it, and it is covered by insurance. It is not an issue with gender-confirming care. It is a bias against transgender people.
It's clearly showing there is discrimination happening. If you can be that person, be that person.
I always wonder why. Why are people anti-trans? You don't care what someone had for lunch. Why do you care what they're wearing? Why do you what they want to call themselves? How does it affect you? So, I mean, if you happen to be a person who is watching, who is somewhat dubious of the trans community, I would just ask you to ask yourself why you feel that way. They're just people, same as the rest of us. Thank you for joining us today on Stand Up Upstate.
I hope you enjoyed that interview. I hope you found it educational. Like and subscribe.